Hi everyone, hope everybody's doing well today. Before I start my presentation, I do have something I have to get off my chest a little bit. I actually hate public speaking. Like, I'm terrible at it, or I think I currently am terrible at it. And there's different reasons to it. So one being is that I find it difficult to, articulate and convey my thoughts in a way that's like easily digestible for everybody. So I feel like that kind of disrupts the flow. I think another one for myself as well is that like I lose my train of thought. I'll be honest, like I've got a TikTok brain. Like one thing goes in, the next thing goes out. Like I can't really get the flow out certain times when I want to speak. And then the third thing being the fact that there's so many eyes like fixated on me, just hanging on every word I say, every act, every step I take. Like I become a lot more self-conscious about how I look. And like I'm telling you right now, like the beanie's here for the reason. My barber low-key messed me up. You know what I mean? Like, you have to push through those type of things. And you're probably wondering why I'm starting the presentation off in this type of manner. And with all that being said, my name is Ruhale Abraham. I'm a second-year law student at the university, and my presentation is all about weakness. And not just weakness, but facing our reality. Now, I'll be speaking in generalities, but I'll be also speaking from a personal perspective. And what a lot of us tend to do is, besides from facing our reality, we tend to accept it. Now, what does it mean to accept our reality? To accept our reality means to view our weakness as something that's fixed, something that's unchangeable, and with that, we make it our identity, the type of person who we are. And even though if we had tackled that weakness head on, and it will lead to personal professional growth, we kind of rationalize that type of thinking, that discomfort of thought, of doing, as by convincing ourselves that it's just pointless to do so. Now, you may still not get the grasp of what I'm trying to say. And to get a better understanding for everybody to understand is just have a few questions, for the audience. Don't worry, I'm not going to pick on anybody. But if you guys just nod your head, signal yes or no, that'd be great. So I feel like first question that I just want to ask, has anybody ever been late to anything? It's a pretty normal thing. Everybody's late. Whether it's to a lecture, to an appointment, to, going out with friends. It's fairly common. Even me, 2 weeks ago, I was an hour late to the BLP program, and unfortunately, they turned me down and I couldn't go in. So while I'm here, I apologize to the cohort, to the team. That's on me, that's my bad. But it's fairly common to be late. Now, to shift that, is anybody regularly late? Yeah. Regularly late to the point that even known for being late? Yeah, yeah, so with that, there tends to be and with that, when asked by your friends or people around you why you're always late, what tends to be the general response for it? So, and I'll tell you that, and it tends to sound like something like, I'm just naturally bad with time. Anybody said something like that? Or, for example, when somebody procrastinates or not, they just say, I'm naturally lazy. I'll use that a lot, I'm not gonna lie. I say that quite a bit. And even with public speaking right now, for me, I tend to leeway to the thought of saying I'm just naturally bad at speaking. And then another weakness. Oh, you just put me on the spot, man. Oh my. Oh, the click is the next weakness. Okay, yeah, fast. So I think with that, what I was just talking about is there's something that I reiterated quite a lot in that sequence. And there was a word I used quite frequently. Does anybody know, do they remember what word I was specifically using a lot in that sequence right there? Naturally, yes, that's it. The word natural, naturally. What does it mean to describe something as natural? When you describe something as natural, that something is original. It's innate. It's something that's biologically established, which admits the possibility, that admits the possibility of enacting change. Now, and with that leads to how we view our weakness and how that becomes our identity. Give me one second. You see, this is the train of thought thing, the TikTok brains have been coming in there. Yeah, we tend to, that's how that weakness becomes our identity. Now, moving on from that, oh my, yeah, completely just it's literally gone out of my mind right now, bro. Oh my days. Just give me 1 second. Oh my days. Okay, there you go. Now I get it. Okay. Now apply that description to what we've been talking about, weakness. If weakness is something that's natural, is there any point of actually tackling it? No. And that's not something that we want to go to or we want to lean towards. Natural, the word natural becomes protection for us. It protects us from the discomfort of our ego. It protects our identity from having changed. And ultimately what happens is we become something internally as a comfortable prisoner. Now, how do we avoid situations like this? What steps must we take? And here I have Carol Dweck. You probably already heard these discussions regarding fixed mindset and growth mindset. And fixed mindset is basically what we've been talking about just the past few minutes I've been talking about. And what we're aiming for is to have a growth mindset. Now here Carol Dweck outlines all the elements which constitute what a growth mindset actually is. And as you can see, one, this is understanding that this is who you are right now rather than this is just who you are. The second point being that the skills are trainable rather than fixed. Third being mistakes become feedback rather than a fault. And then fourth being that the practice reshapes your reality. Now, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, I'll tell you what it actually looks like. It's what I began this presentation with. I began with this presentation by explaining to you guys how I think I'm terrible at public speaking, and I probably already showed it, to be honest. But yeah, I began not just with that blanket statement, but I began with highlighting the different elements which made up that weakness. You know, for example, me, losing my memory in certain type of points, my flow being disrupted and all that type of stuff. And yeah, with that, so I just started talking about how all the weakness all the different elements which amalgamated and made up my weaknesses. Now, I'm not just, here to give this discussion and inform you guys about the topic. It's more than that. It's not just that I'm getting paid to do this as well, I mean, it's about the money a little bit, but with that as well, it's also a task for myself to put myself in an uncomfortable position, and put myself in a place where I'm not comfortable and ultimately face my reality of being poor at public speaking and ultimately develop that later on. Now, I think for me, low-key, I'm gonna sound like a nerd, but I'm an anime fanatic. Like, I like to digest things from anime. There's certain, in terms of when it comes to certain type of discussions or topics, it's a lot more easier to understand stuff like this when it's something that you're passionate about, you enjoy. And one of them for me is anime. And I think specifically I recently watched this anime movie called 100 Meters. And basically you can infer from the title, it's a track anime. And it basically goes about the mentality of different trials and tribulations these athletes go through. And there's one specific moment which comes from a conversation between the protagonist and this individual named Kaido. And Kaido basically encapsulates what the entirety of this presentation is in this one singular quote over here. And he says, until you know your own reality, you can't escape from it. Standing with your eyes close to reality is totally different to running with your eyes wide open. Looking straight into reality is terrifying, but it's the start. And as you can see, if you can infer from the quote here and the anime itself, it encapsulates the whole point of this presentation and how we should face our reality rather than accept it. You guys can watch it on Netflix, I think it's on Netflix. But if you don't, I do know a couple of illegal anime websites I can put you guys onto that, no ads as well, so don't worry about that. I felt like it would be quite beneficial to provide a visual framework of how these steps may be taken in place. One being name it. Of course, this is subjected to your own weakness. For me, it was public speaking. And so the beginning of the part would be to name it. The second part being own it. Now, when I say own it, I don't mean in a manner of possession, but when you have that right to possession, you also have the right to renovate and add changes towards that. And a lot of people tend to just withhold the possession part. So, and with training, of course, again, this is more subjective to your own weakness. For me, this would be my idea of training. I'm in front of everyone here, putting myself in a kind of like vulnerable position, something I wouldn't normally do because I'm quite reserved. So it's putting yourself in that uncomfortable position. And I thought I'd like to close off with a little quote that was on the board. I know it's like the second one, and this one's quite long-winded, but I felt like it was necessary to the whole point of the presentation. And here it says, people are resilient at carrying their weakness. We live with it, joke about it, and protect it. But carrying weakness is not the same as confronting it. The moment you stop calling it natural, you realize it was never permanent, but totally protected. Thank you, everyone.